Hello children, welcome you all once again to my YouTube channel. Today we shall read another lesson from your NCERT English textbook, Supplementary Reader and Alien Hand, and the title of the lesson itself is An Alien Hand. Before you read, have you heard of the Viking mission to Mars? The National Aeronautics and Space Administration's NASA Viking mission to Mars was composed of two spacecraft, Viking 1 and Viking 2. It's consisting of an orbiter and a lander. The primary objectives were to obtain images and samples of the Martian surface and soil and search for any possible signs of life. The Viking 1 Viking 1 was launched on 20 August 1975 and arrived at Mars on 19 June 1976. Viking 2 was launched on 9 September 1975 and entered Mars orbit on 7 August 1976. Besides taking photographs and collecting their science data on the Martian surface, the two landers conducted 3 biology experiments to look for possible signs of life. As of now, there is no clear evidence of the presence of living organisms in the soil near the landing sites. Now read the story. Tilu and his parents lived beneath the surface of the planet under artificial conditions. Tilu has heard and read about the sun and the stars. He has never seen them. Tilu's father goes to walk through a secret passage, and Tilu wants to know all about it. Now let's read the story. Tilu, how often have you been told not to go that way? But why does Daddy go there every day? Because that's his job, Tilu. That way was an underground passage. Tilu's father went every day for a walk along that passage, and every day he came back from that direction. What lay at the end of that forbidden road? Not only Tilu, but a great majority of the community would have liked to know. Tilu's father was one of the select few permitted to go that way. The above conversation invariably took place between Tilu and his mother whenever he insisted on following his father. Today, however, was different. Tilu's father was enjoying a siesta at home, and Tilu managed to get hold of his security card. Then, evading his watchful mother's eye, Tilu made his way to the forbidden passage. A metal door barred his entry, but Tilu had watched his father slip the magic card into a slot. He did the same, and the door opened noiselessly. A well-lit passage seemed to beckon him. Snatching the card which had come out of another slot in the wall, Tilu started his march along a gentle upward slope, for the passage led from the underground habitat to the surface of the planet. Tilu looked forward to seeing the sun if it was daytime, or the stars if it was night, about which he had heard and read so much. Excuse me. But alas, that wasn't to be. Tilu had underestimated the security arrangement. Invisible mechanical devices had already detected and photographed the small intruder, sent his picture to the Central Bureau where it was thoroughly checked, and before he had advanced 10 paces, a strong hand fell heavily on his shoulder. Gently put but firmly, he was escorted by the security staff back home to an anxious and angry mother. Let's have a quick check on this new words. Siesta, short rest or nap after lunch. Habitate, shelter or home. Dictated, found out, escorted, taken or late. Now let's continue reading. While he was being scolded, he received help from an unexpected quarter. "Let me explain to him, darling," said his father, who had just got up. "If he is properly briefed, he will not do such a thing again." He started to explain. "Listen, Tilu. I work on a surface where an ordinary person cannot survive, because the air is too thin to breathe and where the temperature is so low that you would freeze to death." "But Daddy, how do you manage to survive?" "Because I go well equipped in a special suit with a reservoir of oxygen. I can keep warm, and my boots are specially designed to make it easy for me to walk on the surface. What's more, I've been trained to survive and work on the surface. There was a time when our forefathers lived on the surface quite naturally. Indeed, they did so for millions of years. But times changed. The very sun, which had provided us with sustenance, turned hostile." Excuse me. It changed only slightly, but the change was sufficient to upset the balance of nature on this planet. First, the birds became extinct. The animals followed. The fish could not be eaten anymore either. We managed to survive only because of our superior technology, but we were forced to live underground under artificial conditions. Thanks to solar energy, we can generate sufficient power to make our life comfortable, but the machines which make this possible must always be in good working conditions. Some of them are on the surface. I belong to the team whose responsibility it is to keep watch on them and to service them. Briefed, meaning told or informed. "Daddy, can I join the team when I grow up?" "Of course, if you want to," said his father. "But for that you must be a good boy and do as your parents tell you." His mother had, as usual, the last word. Comprehension check. How does Tilu manage to find his way to the forbidden passes? Tilu manages to find his way to the forbidden passes with the help of his father's security card. What did Tilu hope to see once he emerged from his underground home? Tilu hoped to see the sun or the stars, depending on the time of the day he emerged from his underground home. Why did Tilu's father advise him not to try to reach the surface of the planet? Tilu's father advised him not to try to reach the surface of the planet because it was not easy to survive there. The air was too thin to breathe and the temperature was too low to survive. Number 4. What changes had occurred which forced people to live in underground homes? People started living in underground homes when the sun turned hostile and the balance of nature was disrupted. Now let's continue. The big TV screen in the control room shows an excuse me. The big TV screen in the control room shows an alien spacecraft. The question of whether there is life on other planets exercises everybody's mind. The president of the Central Committee is about to make an important statement. Next day, when Tilu's father went to work, he found the control room full of excitement. People were crowded around the big TV screen. It showed a dot in an otherwise clear background. It isn't a star, for it's changing its position. Our computer has given a trajectory for this thing. It's heading towards us, the supervisor of the last shift explained. A spacecraft, Tilu's father asked. By now he was joined by his teammates on the new shift. So we think, but it needs watching. A spacecraft. Where from? The solar system wasn't known to have any life anywhere else except on their planet. Tilu's father recalled the ancient days recorded in the archives at the Central Bureau, when their ancestors had a well-developed space program and had searched the solar system with manned and unmanned spacecraft, and found that they were indeed alone. Now, in the days of the energy shortage and underground life, they had no space program. They could only watch importantly from their vantage point. Who were these strangers? The conference room in the Central Bureau was so quiet that an outsider would have thought it was empty. Far from it. It was full to capacity, but the members of the Central Committee were unusually quiet. They knew that the president was going to make a momentous announcement. Colleagues, I will give you the report as I have it. While I speak, there may be a change in the situation. The president paused to get his papers in order and then continued. 2 spacecraft are approaching us. One is in fact orbiting our planet, while the other is still far away. We guess that they are coming from our neighboring planet. How should we react? Number 1, your views, please. Number 1 was in charge of defense. He was known for his courage and wisdom. Sir, if we wish, we can totally destroy this spacecraft with our missiles, but that won't make us any wiser. We do not have the capacity to render these crafts unoperational in space, but should they land, we can render them ineffective anytime we choose. Our reports say that they do not contain living beings, they only have instruments. Number 2. Your opinion, please, the president asked the scientists on the committee. I recommend non-interference and passive observation. Since we do not know the power of the senders of these spacecraft, and we are still in the dark about their intentions, it is wise not to reveal our existence. If we destroy these spaceships or render them ineffective, we might reveal our existence. The president looked at number 3, a social scientist. He rarely agreed with number 2, but this was one of those rare occasions when he did. I agree with number 2, sir. In fact, I will go so far as to say that we should keep our surface activities to the minimum, thus creating the impression that there is no life on this planet. Fortunately, our surface conditions do give that impression. Before the president could speak, his personal telephone rang. He lifted the receiver and listened quietly for a minute. Colleagues, he announced, the first spacecraft has landed. Comprehension check again. Why was everyone in the control room greatly excited? Everyone was greatly excited in the control room as 2 spacecraft were seen approaching the planet. Was the spacecraft manned or unmanned? How do you know it? The spacecraft was unmanned. It only had instruments. We come to know about this from the report given by the president of the Central Committee. Number 3. What did number 1 and number 2 suggest should be done about the alien spacecraft? Number 1 suggested that the spacecraft should not be harmed as long as it remained non-threatening. If it landed on their planet, then they should render it ineffective by using their technology. Number 2 suggested that they should not interfere and observe passively so as to not reveal that they exist on the planet since they do not know about the spacecraft's intentions. I continue reading. Tilu accompanies his father to the control room. In his excitement, he presses the all-important red button on the panel, and the mechanical hand from the alien spacecraft stops working. The mechanical hand is activated again, but it finds no signs of life on that planet. It was a red letter day in Tilu's life, the day he was waiting for his father had at last taken him to the control room. From here he could see the alien spacecraft on his TV screen. "What a funny looking thing, Daddy. What does it contain?" Tilu asked. His father shook his head. "Can't say for sure. We are only allowed to observe it from far, but we control all its parts and can exercise our power if it is up to any mischief." He pointed to an impressive panel with several colored buttons on it. Tilu looked at them wistfully. "Look, it's up to something, Daddy." Tilu suddenly noted some movement in the spacecraft. Others in the control room saw it too. All eyes were now glued to the screen. A mechanical hand was emerging from the spacecraft. It was approaching the surface of the planet. It bent and touched the soil. What was it up to? People crowded towards the screen for a closer look. The telescopic lens of the TV camera zoomed into the tip of the mechanical hand. Tilu was staring at the control panel and its attractive buttons. An irresistible desire got hold of him to press the most prominent of all buttons, the red one. He moved. There was a shrill whistle and Tilu found himself the center of attention. His father pulled him away roughly and restored the red button to neutral position, but the damage was done. The mechanical hand from the spacecraft ceased to work. At a press conference held by NASA, a scientist was briefing the world press. "Everything has been going on smoothly with the Viking mission. There is a small hitch. The mechanical hand, which was to dig out the Martian soil for examination, has developed a malfunction. We don't know the cause, but our technicians are confident they will sort it out." And shortly afterward, there was another press release from the NASA. "The mechanical hand is working again. Thanks to the efforts of our technicians, soil samples are being collected and examined. Soon we will know the answer to the question whether there is life on Mars." Life on Mars. Of all the planets in our solar system, Mars is nearest in location and physical conditions to our Earth, so the scientists behind the Viking missions were hopeful of finding life on Mars, but they were in for a disappointment. The Viking mission found no signs of life on Mars. And it's written by Jayanta Narlikar. Comprehension check again. What do you think the mechanical hand was trying to do? The mechanical hand was trying to collect the samples of soils from the planet. Tilu pressed the red button and the damage was done. What was the damage? Tilu pressed the red button and the mechanical hand stopped working. This was the damage. Where had the spacecraft come from? The spacecraft had come from Earth. On which planet do Tilu and his parents lived? Tilu and his parents lived on Mars. Exercises. Discuss the following topics in groups. Let's see. If you had to live in a home like Tilu's, what parts of life would you find most difficult? What compensations might there be? See, if we had lived in a home like Tilu's, we would feel suffocated living in such circumstances. So we might go out sometimes equipped with necessary equipments like carrying extra oxygens and all, and especially designed suits for the hostile surface. Number 2, what if anything might drive the mankind to make their homes underground? See, unsuitable climatic conditions might drive the mankind to make their homes underground. Unsuitable climatic conditions. Number 3, do you think there is life on other planets? Can you guess what kind of people there may be on them? In what ways are they likely to be different from us? See, the question is very subjective. You have to give your opinion. You can say, see, we think there is no life on other planets. The researches that have been made so far suggest that no other planet has favorable conditions for survival. See, here is a piece of information. Actually, it's a news report. Martian probes may have killed microbes. 2 NASA space probes that visited 30 years Mars 30 years ago may have stumbled upon alien microbes on the red planet and inadvertently killed them, a scientist has theorized in a paper. The problem was the Viking space probes of 1976-77 were looking for the wrong kind of life and did not recognize it. The researchers said in a paper presented at a meeting of the American Astronomical Society in Seattle on Sunday. This news report, based on a more expansive view of where life can take root, may have NASA looking for a different types of Martian life form when its next Mars spacecraft is launched later this year, one of the space agency's top scientists told reporters. Last month, scientists excitedly reported that new photographs of Mars showed geologic changes that suggest water occasionally flows here there, the most tantalizing sign that Mars is hospitable to life. Excuse me. See, the story is about this lesson, an alien hand, is about Tilu, who was a small boy. He lived with his parents beneath the surface of Mars under artificial conditions. Tilu had never seen the sun or the stars. His father went to his work daily from an underground passage. Tilu was forbidden to go there. His mother warned Tilu about not going there. But one day Tilu managed to get hold of his father's security card and went to that passage. He opened the door and came to an underground tunnel which led to the surface of the planet. But the security persons caught Tilu before he could go 10 steps. The security staff brought Tilu back home. His mother was furious about his father. His mother was really furious about this, but his father explained everything to him. He told Tilu that an ordinary person cannot survive on the surface because the air is too thin to breathe and the temperature is too cold, that it would freeze anybody to death. He also told Tilu that when he goes out to work, he goes well equipped with special suit like space suit, oxygen, warm boots, and clothes. He has also been trained to survive there. His father also told him that their forefathers lived on the surface for millions of years, but then the sun gave warmth and light to their planet. But slowly the balance of nature got upset. Birds, animals, and fishes became extinct. Man survived because of the superior technology, but he had to begin living underground. They managed to extract solar energy and use it to make lives comfortable. Tilu's dad looked after the machines which made this possible. Tilu understood everything and he decided to be like his father when he grew up. Next day, Tilu's father went to work to find much excitement in the control room. Two spacecraft were seen on the computer screen. They had come from some other planet. A conference was called to decide what to do with these crafts. It was decided that they would adopt a wait and watch policy. Because these crafts were unmanned, they contained only instruments. Tilu also accompanied his father to the control room. He saw the crabs landing and one mechanical hand collecting soil. Tilu pressed a red button and the hand stopped working. On Earth, NASA scientists made efforts to get that hand set right. The efforts bore fruit and the hand started working again. It was then that the Viking mission scientists concluded that there were no signs of life on Mars.